I'm totally afraid. I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of losing. I'm afraid of being humiliated. But I'm totally confident. The closer I get to the ring, the more confidence I get. The closer, the more confident.
The new definition of confidence. Confidence is the willingness to try.
My confidence comes from both my faith and in the fact that I keep promises I make to myself.
Borrow confidence from the past.
Confidence. Confidence. Confidence.
Confidence. Confidence.
Confidence. Confidence.
Thank you for joining us. I am pleased to welcome you to the At-Home Testing Solutions webinar. The duration of today's presentation, including question and answers, will be about 50 minutes. You may submit your questions at any time during the presentation by clicking the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen, entering your question in the Q&A box, and hitting submit. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to our presenter, Matthew Bashi-Kazlabowski. Matt is an Associate Director for the Global Client Relations and ETS in Princeton, New Jersey. He is responsible for outreach and communication for the GRE and the TOEFL programs within the United States. Prior to joining ETS, Matt worked in enrollment management for 19 years with the MBA, graduate, undergraduate, transfer, and international markets. Matt holds a BA in Business Administration from Rutgers University and a master's degree in education in psychoeducational processes from Temple University. And with that, I turn the presentation over to Matt. Matt, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Heather. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to this worldwide webinar, ETS, At-Home Testing Solutions, Your Questions Answered. Again, my name is Matthew Bashi-Kazlabowski, and I'm with ETS, and I hope to answer all your questions today. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to scroll down and select the Q&A tab on the screen. Type your question and hit the submit button, and we will try to answer all questions at the end of the presentation. So again, let's get started. Okay, so today what we're going to cover is we're going to begin with an overview of the TOEFL IBT and the GRE General Test at-home solutions and how they currently compare with our regular test options and also score reporting. We're going to then transition on to test taker eligibility and requirements both for a test taker's equipment and for their test taking environment. We're going to provide you with details about security measures, including the use of real-time human monitoring in conjunction with artificial intelligence technology. We're going to also provide you with updates on how ETS is supporting test takers during this uncertain time. And we'll end up with additional comments from the TOEFL and GRE programs before moving on to your questions. So let's get started. An overview of the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition and the GRE General Test at home. You may be asking yourselves, why offer an at-home version of our test? Well, the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition and the GRE General Test at home are convenient, they're flexible, and most importantly, they're safe testing options during this pandemic. We understand that all campuses and students have been impacted, and we hope to be able to access our tests virtually will help minimize disruptions on your campuses. So what are the at-home tests? Both the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition and the GRE General Test at home are the same research-based, valid, and reliable exams that you've used and that you've trusted. They're just delivered in a different way. The TOEFL IBT test will still measure a test taker's ability to combine listening, reading, speaking, and writing skills using integrated test questions with materials that are 100% academic. The GRE General Test at home is still going to provide you with 3 valid measures of critical thinking skills that indicate a graduate student's readiness in verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, and analytical writing. So what is the same? The at-home tests, and again, this goes for both the TOEFL IBT, Special Home Edition, and the GRE General Test at Home, are identical in content, they're identical in length, they're identical in format, and the on-screen experience is the same as if a student was testing at a test center or a physical test center. Both exams are using the same scoring criteria, the scoring process, and the score scale, so that scores can be accepted and used in the same way that you always have on your campuses. And the at-home tests are offered at the same price point to test takers as regular testing. The TOEFL IBT test, Special Home Edition, will also feature the same recent TOEFL Better Test Experience enhancements that were rolled out in August of 2019. And that also includes TOEFL My Best Scores that we'll talk about in more detail later on in the presentation. The GRE General Test at Home will also include the same test-taker-friendly features, such as the ability to skip questions, navigate freely within a section, change answers, and of course, use the on-screen calculator that's available to test takers when they are accessing the quantitative reasoning section. So what is different? Essentially, the main difference is the test delivery method. Testing will take place through the test taker's personal computers at home. Test sessions will be monitored through the use of live human proctors in conjunction with artificial intelligence technology. And the entire session will be videotaped from the beginning through the end of the exam. So when is testing available? I'm pleased to say testing is available 24 hours a day to accommodate test takers in multiple time zones. For the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition, testing began on March 26th, and the GRE General Test at Home, testing began on March 27th. These at-home versions will be available until the situation returns to normal. So where is testing available? ETS is pleased to announce that we have expanded availability of our at-home testing solutions for both the TOEFL IBT and the GRE General Test at Home. Tests are now available in all locations where the computer-delivered tests were normally available, excluding mainland China and Iran. With regards to Iran, ETS is still working to possibly offer the home testing solution as soon as possible. In mainland China, we've been working with the NEEA to accommodate test takers that have been impacted by test cancellations, and that includes adding additional test dates once testing resumes under normal circumstances. However, we've introduced a new solution called TOEFL ITP Plus, which is specifically for those who reside in mainland China, and it's been offered as an interim solution. And we'll talk about more on this particular exam later on in the presentation. So how and when will I receive my TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition scores? First, I want to begin by saying ETS, at least our processing unit, is located in New Jersey. And currently, we are still under restrictions from our governor. So with that said, we currently are not issuing paper score reports. So if you are either a GRE score recipient or a TOEFL IBT score recipient that receives paper scores, currently they've been on hold. So we highly encourage you to sign up for the ETS Data Manager, which is available to institutions at no cost. With respect to score reporting, scores are available within 6 to 10 days electronically via the ETS Data Manager and also through automated server-to-server feeds. The scores that you will receive will feature, again, the same features that have been implemented through the TOEFL IBT test over last year, which again includes TOEFL My Best scores. And test taker responses, again, to the questions in the speaking section of the test will continue to be available online, again, through the ETS Data Manager. There are no changes to the method of scoring, and there have been no changes to the score scale. So how can you tell a test or a TOEFL score report is from a remote proctored exam or an at-home test? Well, the TOEFL Special Home Edition score reports will have a unique test center code that's going to say STN-RP, where the RP designates that it's a remote proctored exam. And that STN-RP will be followed by a 3-digit international organization code. For example, if you were to see STN-RP-DEU, it would indicate that it's a remote proctored TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition exam that was taken in Germany. Again, the methods of score reporting that ETS provides is through the ETS Data Manager, Excel and ScoreLink export files, through PDFs, which again are generated through ADM, and of course paper score reporting that is currently, again, on hold. Another reason, again, to sign up for the ETS Data Manager. And again, more information is listed on our website. For the GRE General Test at home, score reporting, again, will be available in 10 to 15 days electronically through the ETS Data Manager and automated server-to-server feeds. As with TOEFL, again, we're not issuing paper score reports due to the governor's orders, so we need to, again, or we will encourage you to sign up for the ETS Data Manager or EDM so you can access those scores electronically. The nice thing about having access to EDM is if you're like me and many others that are currently working at home due to the coronavirus, you have the opportunity to still move forward with working on your applicants and processing your files and hopefully making decisions as quickly as possible. Again, for more information, I would encourage you for both TOEFL and GRE to go to ets.org/institution-portal/data-manager. Within the ETS Data Manager for GRE, you'll also be able to access the analytical writing essays and also photos of test takers. And again, there are no changes to the method of scoring or the score scale. However, unlike TOEFL, GRE score reports have never listed a testing code that let's say that you would see on the TOEFL score reports. So GRE score reports will not have a unique identifier listing that it was an at-home version. Let's move on to test taker eligibility, requirements, and testing accommodation. So what are the eligibility requirements for at-home testing? The test taker is registering to take the test at home in one of the locations, again, where the computer-delivered tests are normally available, except, as we mentioned, mainland China and Iran. The computer equipment that the test taker will be utilizing needs to pass an equipment check. And again, we'll talk about equipment requirements in the next slide. The test room has to also meet ETS's strict requirements for an acceptable testing environment. So with respect to the equipment requirements, the computer that the test is taken on must be a desktop or a laptop computer. It cannot be a tablet, nor could it be a mobile device. The desktop or laptop computer that's utilized must have a Windows operating system of a 7, an 8, or a 10. And if the test taker uses a Mac computer, it must have Windows installed. Either computer must use Chrome or a Firefox browser. The test taker must also have access to a microphone, and it can be an internal microphone or external. So they need to be able to communicate clearly with the proctor. They must also have access to an internal or an external speaker so they can hear the proctor. Headsets or wireless earphones are not permitted. They must also have access to a camera. Again, it could be a built-in camera or a separate webcam. However, the camera that's utilized must be able to be moved to show the proctor a 360-degree view of the room, which also includes the tabletop surface before the test. So with regards to the testing environment, test taker is required to be alone in a room with no one else entering during the test. Testing in a public place, such as a park, internet cafe, or a restaurant is simply not allowed. The computer or keyboard that's used must be on a tabletop surface. The tabletop and surrounding area must be clear of all items not approved during the test. The test taker must also be seated in a standard chair. They're not permitted to lie on a bed, a couch, or an overstuffed chair. And of course, unless approved, food and drink are not permitted during the exam. As I mentioned earlier, the session will be recorded, so we do require the test taker to wear appropriate dress, as again, they will be monitored and videotaped, and their photos will be shared with score recipients. We also require test takers to have their ears visible throughout the test and not covered by their hair, a hat, or other items. They're also not permitted to wear watches, jewelry, tie clips, cufflinks, hair clips, headbands, sunglasses, or other accessories. They're simply not permitted in the test environment or on their person. With respect to note-taking, test takers are not permitted to take notes on regular paper, and that's for security reasons. However, they can actually take notes on a whiteboard using an erasable marker, or they can take a blank sheet of paper, flip it inside a transparent sheet protector, and again, using an erasable pen and erasable marker, they can take notes accordingly. However, notes, whether they're taken on the whiteboard or on the blank piece of paper inserted inside the transparency sheet, all notes must be erased in view of the proctor at the end of the test or at the end of the section. As you're probably aware, ETS has always been the leader in test taker accommodations. We're committed to serving test takers with disabilities and health-related needs by providing services and reasonable accommodations that are appropriate given the purpose of the test. These accommodations can be requested through the through the test taker's ETS account, and these accommodations include extended time, extra breaks, screen magnification, and selectable colors. Other accommodations that may be required can be requested through ETS Disability Services. And if you need to reach out to them, please feel free to send them an email at stassd@ets.org. Again, that's stassd@ets.org. So let's move on to test security. You're probably asking yourselves, what security safeguards are in place? As you know, ETS takes security very, very seriously, and we're taking every precaution to ensure the test delivery and administration meet our high quality standards. We are employing multiple best-in-class security measures that use both real-time human proctoring in conjunction with artificial intelligence technology. The human proctors are going to ensure constant vigilance including confirming the test taker's identity and scanning their home environment before testing begins. They'll also be flagging any suspicious activity and intervening if necessary. As I mentioned, the human proctoring is also in conjunction with artificial intelligence technology, and we'll be using such technology as facial recognition, what's called gaze tracking, and of course video recording of the entire session from the beginning to the end of the exam. And this will guard against any malicious activity. So how does human proctoring work? Well, ETS actually has partnered with an organization called ProctorU. ProctorU has over 10 years of experience in delivering innovative solutions to over 1,000 organizations, and that includes colleges and universities and public and private enterprises. They have data from over 5 million test takers, and that includes high-stakes exams such as the TOEFL IBT, Special Home Edition, and the GRE General Test at home. ProctorU will be employing and training all proctors that are utilized in identifying attempts to gain unfair advantage. And again, their diligence is complemented by artificial intelligence measures for additional added security. So how does the proctor verify a test taker's identity? Well, before the test begins, photos are going to be taken of the test taker and their identification document. For more information on the ID documents or ID requirements, please visit the ETS account of the test taker, or simply go to the information bulletin for either the GRE or the TOEFL IBT, and that'll go over all the documentation that's required. The proctor will then verify the identification document and make sure that it's current, make sure it's valid, and most importantly, make sure it's acceptable. They're also going to use facial recognition, compare that identification document with the person who's sitting in front of them at the computer. Artificial intelligence technology is also going to be used to verify that the test taker matches the ID document multiple times throughout the test, and that also includes when they return from their 10-minute break. How is the home environment checked? Well, again, the test takers are informed before registering that they must have a room that provides an acceptable environment for the test. And that includes, again, having a built-in camera or a separate webcam that can be moved to show the proctor a 360-degree view of the room. And again, that includes the tabletop surface. Before the test begins, the test taker must use their webcam to show the room and the testing space for a visual 360-degree inspection. So how is ETS guarding against cheating? Human proctoring takes place in real time, not after the test, and wrongdoing can be detected by the proctor immediately during the test session. This real-time human diligence is combined with artificial intelligence technology to detect attempts to steal test content or to cheat. Examples of test taker activity that artificial intelligence technology would flag would include an attempt to open a new browser. For example, if I was taking the exam and I tried to open, let's say, Google Chrome, that would immediately be flagged and my test, of course, would be terminated. It would also detect if I was trying to run unpermitted software and if I was also using an unpermitted object such as a cell phone. As I mentioned earlier, notes can only be taken on a whiteboard with an erasable marker, or taking a piece of paper and inserting it into a transparency sheet protector, and again, using an erasable marker. As I noted earlier, all content must be erased in view of the proctor before the test session or section ends. And the proctor can cancel the test immediately if he or she feels that there has been an attempt to cheat. So how is ETS providing additional support to test takers and institutions? We're ensuring that capacity is available, and we've been working with ProctorU to ensure capability so we can extend in time the ability to test from home to other locations. We're also working diligently with our local partners to ensure capacity is available once the situation returns to normal. We have also been waiving the reschedule fee, not only for test takers that were impacted by the test center cancellations, but also those who express safety concerns. We're providing free TOEFL and free GRE test preparation resources, and again, they're available on the ETS website. And we've been communicating frequently to test takers, not only through the ETS website, but also through official TOEFL and official GRE Facebook accounts, other social communities, and of course, through the direct email to test takers. So how else are we supporting test takers during this pandemic? I'm pleased to say that all test centers that are currently open are following extra prevention steps to reduce the risk of spreading the virus. And that includes frequent cleaning of high-touch surfaces and providing disposable wipes so the test takers can also, if they feel necessary, wipe down their own testing areas. Test takers are also permitted to bring and wear their own surgical mask at the test center. However, they must remove them temporarily to have their photo taken and to enable the test center to verify their identity during the check-in process, and of course from after they return from their 10-minute break. Those taking the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition must also remove their mask during the speaking section of the exam. So let's move on to the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition. As I mentioned earlier, we have just introduced TOEFL ITP Plus for China. Registration for TOEFL ITP Plus began on March 15th, and our first testing date or available date is May 30th. The TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition test, again, as I mentioned, is not available in mainland China. With that said, we introduced the TOEFL ITP Plus for mainland China, which is a secure testing solution exclusively for mainland China until the IBT testing resumes within the test centers. The TOEFL ITP Plus for China is going to provide the TOEFL ITP test administered at a secure ETS authorized test center. And ITP Plus will measure a test taker's reading comprehension, listening comprehension, and structured and written expression. There will also be a third-party video speaking interview that's offered through Vericant, a leading secure interview administrator. And to learn more about this particular version, you can access, again, the information directly from our website. So I mentioned earlier, TOEFL My Best Scores. If you're not familiar with TOEFL My Best Scores, essentially what they are is a snapshot of a student's or test taker's best performance in each of the 4 areas, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, over a 2-year period. So if you are an institution that has been historically getting your score reports via paper, you probably noticed last August that you started to receive an additional score, set of scores that was on there, and that would be an additional listening, reading, speaking, and writing, and a new composite score. If you get your scores electronically, you probably never noticed that because you may not have been aware of this new feature of TOEFL. What's nice about the TOEFL My Best Scores is it really gives you a clear indicator of a student's best performance in each of those 4 skills over a 4-year period. As you know, if you work in admissions, not only does an admissions office normally have a minimum score requirement for the total score, but oftentimes they have minimum section score requirements as well. thus, by introducing or accepting TOEFL My Best, you really get a clearer indicator of a test taker's overall performance, again, over a 2-year period. If this sounds like it's something that you may be interested in, again, feel free to access our website. And if this is something that you definitely want to move forward with, there's nothing that you need to do on your end other than listed on your website to let applicants or prospective applicants know that your institution not only accepts TOEFL scores, but you also accept TOEFL My Best scores. Should you have any questions about TOEFL My Best, or if you'd like to let us know that you're accepting them, please feel free to send an email directly to TOEFL News. That's all one word, TOEFL News @ets.org. And again, if you have any questions, feel free. I did mention if you are receiving scores electronically, you may not have even noticed that we introduced TOEFL My Best scores last August. And the reason being is essentially because your campus management systems most likely are not set up to accept the 5 additional fields. So if that's the situation you fall in, send an email to TOEFL News @ets.org or access the website and to be able to access the data record layout. And that'll provide your IT department with the additional fields that you'll need to add to your campus management systems so that TOEFL My Best scores import correctly. Again, if you have any questions, please let us know. So with the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition, there is no need for you to compromise your high standards for English language proficiency testing. As you're aware, TOEFL has always been the gold standard of English language proficiency testing. And we also have always used 100% academic content to measure English skills the way they are actually used in the classroom. When we say that, we mean our materials are derived from university textbooks, university discussions, and again, university lectures. TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition, again, has the accuracy, validity, and reliability that you know and that you trust from the TOEFL brand. And of course, admitting students from scores from other exams that may be unsecure, low quality might prove a risk to your institution's quality or its reputation. So again, we highly encourage you to use and accept and promote TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition. So let's move on to the GRE General Test. The GRE General Test is the most objective lens to which all graduate applicants can be compared regardless of their background. As I mentioned earlier, the GRE General Test at home will still provide institutions and test takers with 3 ballot measures, which measures their critical thinking skills, that indicate a graduate student's readiness in verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, and analytical writing. In addition, GRE has checks and balances to make sure that it's fair and to make sure that it's unbiased. We train our staff on ETS standards for quality and fairness. We have formed diverse teams to review all test questions, and we remove test questions that seem to advantage any one group or subpopulation. Without using GRE scores, students who attend lesser-known institutions are less able to demonstrate possibly their academic capabilities. So again, if you're an institution, we highly encourage you to continue using GRE scores so all students can be compared equally. Also, the fairest way to consider all applicants is using a holistic admissions process. If you're not familiar with holistic admissions, I encourage you to visit the website, holisticadmissions.org, for more information. And again, the GRE fee reductions that are available to eligible test takers can be used for the at-home test as well. And again, for more information, ets.org/GRE/fee_reduction. As I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, please scroll down, select the Q&A tab on your website or on the platform, type in your question and submit and hit the submit button. And if time permits, we will respond to that accordingly. If you have any questions after the exam, please feel free to reach out directly to me, and my contact information is listed. So let's get started. Somebody's asking, what if there's a power outage or the internet cuts out during the test? Again, if it's for a long extended period of time, or if it impacts the test taker in a negative way, ETS will reschedule that exam at no additional cost. Again, the test taker should be able to communicate directly, again, with the proctor, but if there is a major issue and the power, let's say, was to go out, they can also call ProctorU directly at 855-772-8678. Repeat, area code 855, and of course that's in the US, 772-8678. And of course that information will be provided to the test taker as well when they register with ProctorU. What happens if there's a slow internet connection during the exam? The same holds true. Can we appear for a free test more than once? I think they're asking if they can apply for the fee reduction service, possibly, for GRE. That is eligible for test takers that qualify. And again, that is for two tests. In my room, there are a lot of books in the background. Should these books be removed, or is it okay to let them be in view? Actually, that'll be determined when you have your environment check. If there's need to move the books, they will definitely let you know that before test day. Can you take the GRE without having a specific college or university in mind? Yes. GRE scores are valid for 5 years. If you are currently in school and you're undecided about where you want to attend, we always encourage test takers to take the exam while they're still in school, since they will be more in an academic mindset. And with that said, they'll probably be more used to taking tests, and again, hopefully will do better in the exam than if they should wait. And again, the scores are valid for 5 years, so we will definitely hold on to them and send them out accordingly when you're ready to make applications to your respective colleges and universities. What exactly is the fee reduction? Again, for those that qualify, that's listed on the GRE website. And again, there's a specific income determining factor that goes along with that, and of course an application process. If you are selected for the fee reduction process or program, it's half of the test fee, and then you get $100 in pre-test preparation materials. Can you explain about the toughness of the exam? Like, is it hard or easy? We know it's adaptive. Sure. With GRE, test takers all start on an equal playing field. That means your first section of verbal and your first section of quantitative will have easy questions, moderately challenging questions, and then very difficult questions. How well you do on your first verbal and your first quantitative will determine the difficulty level of the next verbal and the next quantitative. Just remember, though, when you're working in this section, all test questions contribute equally to your total score. So if you are working on one particular question and you find it to be extremely difficult, mark that question for review, and if time permits, come back to complete that question. Somebody is asking about GDPR compliance, protection of test takers' privacy during the recordings. I know that the test takers need to sign a particular waiver, and I'm assuming that that would cover them for any compliance and privacy rights or issues. Again, we are a major organization and take all of that into account before we sign in any contracts with any organization such as ProctorU. So I don't think there's any worry on your part about privacy. How many practice tests are available from ETS? Again, for GRE, there's 2 on the Power Prep side, and for TOEFL, I'm going to ask my colleague on the other end answer that question directly. Do we have any other questions today? What do I need to do before I register for an at-home test? Great question. Before you register, make sure that your TOEFL IPT Special Home Edition test is available, of course, in your location, and that your equipment meets the system requirements needed to test at home. As a member of ETS, what material do you suggest for preparing for the GRE? Well, the first I always encourage students for preparation is, of course, our free resources. And the free resources available, of course, are the GRE Power Prep software. It's the simulation of the actual exam from beginning through end. It's the closest real simulation that you can get, so there's no surprises on test day. Again, there's practice exams that are included in that, and we suggest that you do them under time conditions, again, to simulate the actual testing experience. There's also math review and math conventions, again, which we'll go over and help you with the quantitative section. And there's also a link to the Khan Academy. All those materials combined should help you do well. If you need additional support, again, we are a nonprofit and we do have additional materials that are available for purchase, again, at a very, I feel, very low price point. Again, you can get those through the ETS store or at your local bookstore or Amazon locations. Just remember with the ETS publications, we do use McGraw-Hill, and you will see like official TOEFL test guide or official GRE. They come directly from ETS. We can't say where other publishers or test prep companies get their materials from, but the information that's found in the McGraw-Hill publication is provided to them directly from ETS, and it is the most effective materials that I would recommend. If we have to retest, do we have to pay again? Of course. With every exam, there is a cost. So just as an FYI, for GRE, you can test every 21 days up to 5 times per year for the GRE General Test, and for the TOEFL IVT every 3 days. But again, every time you test, there will be a cost involved. And actually somebody asked how many times can I retake the test? Actually, we just answered that, so I've actually moved ahead. Let's see, thank you for the information. Is the disclosure document related to privacy issues downloadable from a link that you can provide? I know it is available. I know that you can read the disclosure document through and through. That information should be available at registration time. And of course, ETS would definitely provide that to you. What documents do I need to register for the GRE or TOEFL? Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, you should access either, if you've set up a My ETS account, there is a section or a link that's titled Identification or ID Documents. If you select that, go to the country that you'll be testing in, and it'll tell you the exact documentation that you need. What I can tell you is for GRE or for TOEFL, you need to use the name that's on your identification documentation exactly as it appears. If you go under a nickname, or if you go, let's say, try to abbreviate your name, but that's not how it is listed on your ID documents, you actually will be barred from testing and you will not be given a refund. So please, again, read the disclosure documents regarding ID very carefully. Do you have an idea on when you will end the home testing and return to normal in the testing centers? Actually, there are test centers that are still open around the world. There are some locations that have not been impacted by the virus or that have had minimal impacts, and test centers have reopened in some areas. But again, as I mentioned during the presentation, should a test taker not feel comfortable going into that particular environment, they are more than welcome to sign up for the at-home version. And again, if they wish to take the exam from their house. The GDPR-related privacy document, you mentioned that candidates need to approve online using ProctorU. Oh, okay. Well, again, that would be provided by ProctorU, but it would be available for you to read. And again, Heather will respond to you accordingly. What is the major difference between the GRE General and the GRE Subject Test? Very simply, the GRE General Test is just exactly what it says. It's a general test that tests the test takers' verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, and analytical writing skills. The subject tests are exactly, again, what they say, where they are subject test in nature. And there is a series of them. The most popular ones are probably psychology. Is probably the largest one that we offer. I believe there's 8. And again, you will know when making application to different colleges and universities what they require. We strongly encourage you to research those institutions. Again, the general test is the one that's the most popular and most often required worldwide. But again, there are some programs that will require the subject test. So really look at the institutions you're making application to, and then see what their requirements are. If they require the general test, there's no need for you to take the subject test. But if some require the subject and some require the general, then you'll be required, of course, to take both and submit the general test to those that require the general, and the subject test results to those that require the subject test. I hope that helps. How much time before the exam do we get the link, or do we log in? Well, again, the way the process works, the way I understand it, is that you go to you have to set up your My ETS account for GRE or for TOEFL. You'll register, which means you're going to actually pass the equipment check, pass the environment check, pay for the exam through ETS, and then what's going to happen is you're going to get a link from ProctorU, and ProctorU will finish the registration process, where you'll pick your day and your time. If I didn't mention it earlier, TOEFL is testing Tuesday through Friday, and GRE is testing Friday through Monday. And of course, that's 24 hours a day, so there's always time slots that are available. I don't think you're going to have any issues in getting your preferred day or time. Have you canceled paper-delivered tests? I'm assuming you're talking about TOEFL paper-delivered, and again, where testing has been, or test centers have been closed, then that answer is yes. They're currently suspended until operations return to normal. How do we log in? Through the ETS app. Again, you cannot use a mobile device for the actual test. You need to use a laptop or a PC. If you're just talking about registration, yes, you can register through the ETS app, whether that be GRE or for TOEFL. How long will be the home test? Will you give extra time for all members? Well, again, the TOEFL exam is 2 hours and 30 minutes. The GRE exam is 3 hours and 45 minutes. If you're asking about extra time, I think you're referring to test taker accommodations, and they need to be approved. There's a long and lengthy application process and documentation process that test takers need to supply documentation to our board for review before test taker accommodations can be approved. So you can get more information again, not only on the ETS website, but you can also, once you set up your My ETS account, you'll see that there is a link or a hyperlink that says test taker accommodations. Click on that link and it'll provide you with the information that you seek for additional time. Can you please explain about test scores? You need to give me more detail, as I could go on talking about test scores for over the next hour. So if you can give me more information of what you're looking for, I'll be more than happy to answer that question. Can I report my scores to 4 universities after my GRE exam? Yes. The way the process works for GRE, you're given 4 free score reports. You must, and I underscore must, send out those reports, those score reports, before you leave the test center or you forfeit them. So you're probably asking yourself, well, I haven't applied or made application to my college or university. That's okay. When I worked in admissions, we always got information in separate pieces, meaning your undergraduate transcripts, let's say, or your high school transcripts are going to come from an institution. Your standardized test scores are going to come from ETS. Your letters of recommendation are going to come from the people that you're asking to write those on your behalf. Of course, your application and possibly your essay and interview are going to come from you. So when your application finally comes in, the institution will match it with your test scores, and hopefully that'll complete your application. Again, you can always order, and that goes for both GRE and for TOEFL, additional test scores, additional score reports. And again, you can do that again through your My ETS account. Okay, so score ranges. Okay, again, you're not giving me enough information. What are you looking for? Are you talking about TOEFL? Are you talking about GRE? What kind of ranges are you looking for? Are you an institution? Are you a test taker? Give me more information and I'll be more than happy to respond to your question. Are you looking to achieve a certain range? Are you asking what range is a good range? And again, are you looking at TOEFL? You're looking at GRE? If you're looking, what I can say is if you're looking to make application to an institution, you have the ability to reach out to them and ask them what scores they're looking for. They may provide you with an average. They may provide you with a range. They may say our average incoming freshman, our incoming average incoming graduate student has a TOEFL or a GRE exam score of X. Maybe that'll help. Oh, okay, so, okay. Verbal, quant, and AWB score. Okay, well, again, verbal, when you take the test, you're going to receive 3 separate scores for GRE test takers. You're going to receive a verbal reasoning score on a scale of 130 to 170 in 1-point increments. You're going to get a quantitative reasoning score on a score scale of 130 to 170 in 1-point increments, and you're going to get an analytical writing score of 0 through 6 in half-point increments. Again, based on what the institution is looking for, will help you gauge what your scores should be. If, let's say, if an institution is looking for a quantitative score of a 160 and you get a 150 something, if they're a highly competitive institution, I would probably recommend that you take the exam again for obvious reasons. Well, again, there is no good range. Institutions set what scores, and that goes for TOEFL too. There is no pass and fail in these exams. Institutions set their own score requirements, and those score requirements are just their internal process. So again, I highly recommend you reach out to them either by email or by chat if they offer that, and ask them directly. Again, you're the applicant. You have the right to ask them what they're looking for, or even what the average is of their incoming graduate student or underclassmen. Okay. Well, on that note, we actually are at our time, and I want to thank everybody again for participating today. Again, if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us or go directly to the website. For GRE test takers, I also didn't mention TakeTheGRE.com is an excellent resource for you. It was set up by ETS and the GRE program, but it's a more test taker friendly site, so you may find that a little more helpful. Again, if you found this helpful, feel free to share, because we have another one coming up next Wednesday, and I will be, again, presenting that as well. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You will get an email, usually within 24 hours, from 124, and it will be a recording of today's session. If you do not receive that, go to your spam or your junk folders, and you should be able to find it there. Again, thank you again for all that you do. For those of you that work in higher education, thank you for working with your students during this crisis. Thank you for being, most importantly, flexible. As we know, a lot of us have never encountered these types of situations, and things can change on a day-to-day basis. So again, thank you for everything that you do. Please be safe. Please listen to your healthcare providers and your government officials, and do what you need to do, again, to remain safe. Again, thank you so much. Have a great day. And again, I look forward to meeting you in the future when things return to normal. Thanks again. Take care.
There's a difference. I want to do it, and I want to be a rock star, right? Like, and that's where you influence people. Like, you know, like, I want to do it, but I also want to be the most popular. And so then that person's like, oh, I want to be him, so I guess I'll be nice. Like, I want to literally take people who have DNA that's kind of nice and make them more nice